What's up guys, Vress here with a few thoughts on the upcoming release of Bless Online. Specifically, I want to talk about how Bless is bringing absolutely nothing new to the genre, but you may be surprised that I don't mean that in a negative way. By the way, this rough thought sharing format is because I'm away in Spain for work right now and I don't have the tools to make my usual content, but I feel that you guys have been so awesome supporting me that I owe you something. And it's kind of an excuse to have a bit of a rant. So anyway, what do I mean by Bless's lack of innovation being potentially a good thing? Well, first of all, it's worth saying that just like you, I want to see something new and innovative in the MMO genre. However, the reality is that we also need games to play in the meantime. Every new and upcoming title promises so much these days. Words like next gen, sandbox, and player driven are thrown around whenever we hear about a new game. But most of them don't deliver on this. We end up with broken promises, usually due to technical limitations, lack of budget, or sometimes just gross negligence. And what's worse is the fact that most of these titles are years in the making. We all get on the hype train and then we get our fingers burned. Now, for those of you who watch this channel a lot, you might think that this negativity seems kind of odd coming from me, as I tend to stick to the positive side of things. I really do believe in hope over pessimism, but I'm also brutally honest, and this is just the state of the genre right now. I feel the pain just as much as you guys. In fact, I feel it even worse a lot of the time because I invest so much time creating content for titles that could end up being total trash. However, what I do understand is that unless one of you is working right now on the next genre-defining title, then there's not much we can actually do about this situation. That's why I personally believe that it's time that we as a community need to adjust our expectations just a little bit for the next few years. I can't wait for the next big innovation in the industry, and I believe that it is coming eventually. But until then, if we want to have any enjoyment from new titles, then we need to be realistic with our expectations. After all, what's wrong with enjoying an older concept done right? Well, the thing is, we rarely get a chance to find out anymore, as everyone thinks they need to make the next big innovative title. And due to the insanely low odds of a studio actually accomplishing that, most of them fail. This is where, in my opinion, Bless Online may come in. It's not a particularly innovative game, it's really not doing anything new. However, if they fix the issues from previous launches, then it might just be a solid title that can keep us entertained for a while. As far as I'm concerned, that would be pretty nice, rather than just having to play pre-alpha, early access titles that half the time don't even work. Sure, we have our staples like WoW, ESO, and Guild Wars 2, but they've been around for a long time now. And it'd be nice to have an extra option on that very limited list of solid, playable MMOs. So why do I think that Bless in particular could be the game that provides us with this? Well, there are a few reasons. Firstly, the game has a solid medieval fantasy theme that doesn't immediately put off a huge number of players by going down the typical Eastern metal bikini look. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with liking that, but it's just not for everyone, and I feel that games that go down that route usually end up isolating a very large portion of MMO players. Another thing is that Bless provides decent graphics. They're nothing groundbreaking, but they're certainly enough to immerse most players in the world. Which, to be honest, looks pretty beautiful so far, particularly when it comes to the cities. Though I'll admit I do worry about some of the vast, empty, and to be honest, unfinished spaces that featured in some of the previous releases. I feel like the developers definitely fell into the typical MMO trap of trying to implement scale just for the sake of it being there. The game also has a solid selection of classes. Again, nothing innovative, but it provides us with the MMO staples that we know how to work with. Most importantly, these classes focus around the tanking, healing, DPS trinity, rather than trying to force players into some unusual playstyle that, to be honest, will have to be truly fantastic and innovative for us to ever adopt it on a wider scale. Which, based on most other attempts to do this, it probably won't be. Additionally, there's a fairly deep level of class customization, so even though classes may be forced into particular roles, Guardian Tanks being a key example, they will have some flexibility in how they perform that role. Of course, there's always going to be the meta at top level, but if you think we're ever going to have a game that doesn't feature that, you're kind of dreaming. People will always crunch the numbers and find the optimal build. Another important thing is that it's apparently not going to be pay to win. Obviously, if they change this, the game's probably dead, so I'd like to think that they won't. And most importantly for me, even though it's a PvP focused game, it will also offer PvE dungeons and raids. So hopefully it's going to have something to offer both PvE and PvP players, which I feel is essential for any MMO that's going to become a staple in the genre. A huge number of us need both to enjoy an MMO, and I am definitely one of those players. This is, in my opinion, the only reason that BDO doesn't share the same player base as games like WoW and ESO. It actually has some really amazing features, but it totally neglects endgame PvE. Now each of these features doesn't mean much on their own, like I said they're not innovative, but the combination of theme, graphics, dungeons, raids and battlegrounds all done to a decent standard, alongside the lack of a pay-to-win cash shop is something we rarely see these days. In my mind, it's essentially what Arcade could have been if they didn't get greedy. Usually we get a new title that excels in one area but totally disappoints in several others, and this is essentially why I feel that Bless, a game that could be viewed as bland, may actually be better described as robust and consistent. Or at least that's what we're hoping for. Of course, there are some major concerns, such as the terrible combat system that was present in the Eastern release, and the worry that we might see the typical Eastern features of terrible story translation and the inclusion of a pay-to-win cash shop. However, we have been promised that the combat has been totally rehauled and that we won't see any pay-to-win features, so let's just hope that's the case. Overall, like I said, there's nothing new here, nothing that's going to change the genre forever at least. However, we might just get a decent MMO to add to our list, providing the changes they've made are sufficient and it doesn't become a pay-to-win shit show, of course. If executed correctly, it could at least give us some variety. Even if we could get a couple of years of enjoyment out of a new title, I'd take that at this point. It's really not about accepting the mediocre, but more about finding fun as a community in what we actually have available. The other option is just to be pessimistic and miserable, and that's a pretty crappy way to live. Anyway, I just wanted to share some very sober and honest reflections on the state of MMOs and where I feel Bless could fit in if it ends up being well executed at launch. Personally, I'm hyped for the game, and that's not because I'm naive or because I'm expecting it to be the next big thing, but it's because I choose to be. Because ultimately, the alternative emotions suck. Of course, it won't matter what I say, haters will hate regardless. Those people can dislike this video and give me crap in the comments, but I finally reached the point where I no longer care. I'm done apologizing for being hopeful about this genre. Of course, I'm not talking about constructive debate, by the way. You may disagree entirely with my thoughts here, and that's cool. After all, this channel is a place for honest debate, and hopefully a home for those of us who want to get excited together, regardless of the shitty landscape that's in front of us sometimes. For those of you who share that attitude, I want to invite you to our Discord, which is a positive place in the MMO world with people who share these values. I'll stick a link in the description down below. Anyway, rant over. I've shared my thoughts and I look forward to hearing yours in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, then I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel. I cover MMOs and other fantasy style games with what I describe as an optimistic but honest approach. And if you like that kind of thing, then I think you may enjoy it here. If you'd rather hate on everything before it even comes out, then you probably won't enjoy it so much here. And as much as I want to grow this channel, I'd encourage you not to subscribe, as you're probably not going to enjoy the content. Either way, take care of yourself and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.